Bobby and I just finished about a mile run, although honestly I had to walk a third of it because he wanted to go in every direction but the one I wanted to run in. He's been getting worse and worse at pulling, so we got him this collar that has, like, I guess basically spikes. That sounds terrible, but they're dull spikes, and it, you know, tightens up on his neck the more he pulls. And I didn't adjust it completely, so that may have affected the efficacy, honestly. But it didn't seem to help a whole lot. He was real irritated with it at first, but after a couple minutes he was just like, whatever, I'm gonna tug anyway, so I'm gonna adjust it and go from there. But it didn't seem to faze him too much. But it's real bad, because especially when it comes to strangers and he gets all excited and he jumps off the ground while pulling on his leash, and I guess to someone who doesn't know him might be afraid that he, you know, wants to attack them or whatever, even though he's, you know, smiling and wagging his tail and stuff. I'd rather him be much more calm and collected when he meets strangers, because that's a lot more inviting than a dog who's literally off the ground and not listening to its owner. Also a little bit embarrassing on my end. But anyhow, but he was not too fazed by that. I wanted to exercise him, but I also wanted to give my knee a little bit of workout. It's been feeling a little better. I took the naproxen for 2 straight weeks, and that seemed to help, and I've been making a point to do a lot more stretches and stuff, but I wanted to see how it would stand up under some exercise, because I can't not exercise. It makes me restless. So I did that 1 mile with him, but it wasn't very good for me. It was great for him, wasn't good for me. So I went and did the same thing on the bike at, like, you know, light effort, just to put my knee through its full range of motion without it being under a lot of stress and stuff, and see where it goes. And if it's not sore tomorrow, then I'll go a little bit harder until I'm back at, you know, max capacity, if I can. And then if not, then I guess I'll just have to report back to the orthopedic guy. About to take a shower right now, shave the old dome because it's getting long, it doesn't look good. And then tomorrow I'll just tack it on to the end of this, but tomorrow I'm gonna make a video, specifically plan on studying for my exam Friday in Calc II. So we'll see you tomorrow. Today is tomorrow, and I'm eating a corn dog because I'm 9 years old. Wow, this lighting is amazing. I'm glad we converted to LED. But anyhow, studying for my exam tomorrow. There's a lot of redundancy in what I do, and it's not always consistent from test to test, or even class to class for that matter. How I deal with tomorrow's test will probably be really similar to how I deal with the final. But anyhow, let's jump into it. So studying in general, I try to make kind of at least a little bit cumulative, not entirely, because that's just too much information in my opinion to handle for every single test, especially when you have a lot of tests like I have in this class, which was 4 total including the final. But I'll just usually like gloss over other things, equations for, like, I don't know, the length of an arc curve or whatever. Because there have been a couple times in this class and in previous classes where I got stumped because a question was asked about a topic that was covered previously or at the beginning of the semester, and you just never think about it. And the final is cumulative, so, you know, I may as well be studying, refreshing my memory about all that old stuff, a little here, a little there, rather than trying to remember it all in the, you know, the 2 weeks that I have to prepare for the final. A big part of me preparing for... Dog's chasing the cat. So a big part of my studying process is making my reference sheets, which I've mentioned in a previous video. This is basically what they look like. I have just a 1-inch binder for them, and I just this kind of serves the purpose of referring to later on in the semester and the year while I'm in a different class or something to that effect. So I started doing this in Calc II. But I also have all of my handouts from Calc I, which are super duper helpful. And I just briefly go over things, and it's in my own words, and I usually give an example so that if I have to go back to it rather than trying to Google it, find a particular tutorial that I really liked or a website that I really got a lot of help from, I'll just put it in my own words, and that way I can carry this around. It's not very cumbersome, and it's got everything in there. So the process of making that, you know, writing it down, looking at stuff, trying to write it down from memory helps me in retaining it. And at that point, if I'm having trouble remembering things to write in it, then I'll go back to tutorials and my class notes and all that stuff to verify what I'm writing down or to correct it. So that's that. On top of that reference sheet, I'll make, I guess, what I just call an at-a-glance sheet. And this is what it looks like. It's literally just everything on one sheet of paper, just mainly equations and forms of stuff, and just real brief at-a-glance type stuff. And whether or not I make this or put it on my dry erase board depends on where I'm doing most of my studying for that week. So if I'm spending a lot of time in class and not a lot of time between classes at school, and the rest of my time's at home, then I'll utilize my dry erase board. But if I have a lot of time between classes, like I do this semester, or if I just have some days where I don't spend any time at school, then I will obviously be doing most of my studying at home and subsequently do this, because I can't take the dry erase everywhere. I tried once to fill out my dry erase board and take a picture of it and put it on my computer. Didn't like that, because then you got to zoom in parts, and what the hell did I write? It usually just depends on the setting that I'm in. My previous classes, this didn't apply, but in this class, really thankful that I get a practice tests and I get the answers to them. So that's what this is here. And I'll go over this briefly just a little bit, but it's not super necessary for me. And I'll write this usually in sentence format like you see here, rather than just putting the math, because the math itself technically is not the issue, because in this case, when we're dealing with fractions, simplifying fractions, comparing fractions to other fractions, and like if we're talking about comparison tests or limit comparison tests for evaluating convergence, divergence of series, that's all basic algebra. So the issue is always the concept and what to do and in what case to do it. Just writing it very simply and straightforward. Like I said, I'll only look at that very little bit, if at all, with all the other stuff that I have. I have a lot of homework assigned through WebAssign this year, as I did last year as well. So I don't really rely on the textbook for practice problems. If I didn't have WebAssign homework, or didn't have homework at all, then I would probably rely more heavily on my textbook for practice problems, but in this case, it doesn't really apply. My work break cycle kind of varies. Usually, it takes me a little bit to get into a groove, but if I can manage to not have any distractions, the dog's not harassing me, the cat's not begging for attention, I'll usually go 30 to 45 minutes of like really focused, really productive work. And at which point I'll just take like 10 or 20 minutes. I'll get something to drink. I'll take the dog for a walk so that I can get outside and he can get outside. I'll just watch some funny crap on YouTube, just whatever. I don't really benefit from doing long, hard study sessions without significant breaks. So like doing 50 minutes of studying and 10 minutes of break doesn't work for me. I don't know anyone else that works for either, but to each their own. Sometimes I'll listen to music, but if I do, it'll be something instrumental. Whether that's like classical guitar or instrumental rock, I've been really into lately, because it's like upbeat and it's energetic, but there's not the added distraction of words. But sometimes I won't listen to anything at all. I mean, like anyone else, it kind of varies with my mood, and if I'm having a lot of problems focusing on stuff, then I won't allow myself any music. I'll leave my phone in another room so I don't get bothered by text messages or stuff. Or sometimes when it's coming pretty easily, I'll play some music. So at the day of, my math classes, for whatever reason, have always been really early. So 8 a.m. for the last 2 semesters. So the day of, I'm not going to do a whole lot of studying. I'll take this reference sheet that I talked about. I'll take that with me. I'll look at it. I'll just gloss over it a couple times while I listen to music for maybe 10 to 30 minutes, probably not even that long, probably closer to like 10 or 15. And then I'll spend the rest of the time just enjoying myself, listening to music, listening to a comedy podcast, or just watching some stuff on YouTube. I'm not really a good test taker, especially when it comes to math, so I don't like trying to rush and try and retain more stuff last minute. Never helps me. If anything, it just gives me more anxiety. And that's why I try and prepare as much as possible beforehand when I'm not like wigging out, which I am this afternoon only a little bit. I mean, I've never in my life felt like I studied too much for an exam. I don't think that's a thing, so it never hurts to have more, but I don't believe in trying to get, the brunt of that the day of or like 20 minutes before a test. I've never found that helpful, and it just only adds to the stress. So I'd rather just get my mind off of it for a minute, chill out, listen to music or something funny or lighthearted, and so that I can go into the testing environment, you know, a little bit calmer than I normally would. And I also have my practice final, which is, let's see how many questions. It's quite a few. It's 38 questions. I think I get like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. It's probably proportional to what he does now, I'm sure, as far as amount of time per question. So all of this I'll try to do myself without any assistance whatsoever. Most of it will probably be wrong or be slightly wrong. After I've tried to like flex the memory muscle, if you know what I mean, then I'll go back, I'll look at my notes, I'll look at his answers because he'll post the answers for the practice. And then at that point, I'll start making my reference sheet, or I'll use my dry erase board probably because I'll be home because I'll have a couple of days off for finals. And then I'll basically do most of the same stuff. That's basically it. Right now I'm gonna hop to it. I'm probably only gonna do 2 or 3 hours of hard studying today. I feel like that's all I need. I'm usually a reasonably good gauge of what I need to focus on and what I've got down pat so far for a test. But like I said earlier, I don't think I can study too much. So that being said, I don't want to burn myself out. I think it's time to hop to it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.